Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. In Berlin, just yesterday, we officially presented the German federal government's national strategy against anti-Semitism and for Jewish life. I am therefore particularly pleased to be invited to speak to you today and to have the opportunity to explain the strategy a little bit in an international context just one day after its launch. It is true that anti-Semitism is considered the oldest form of resentment of hatred in Europe, but we, as Germans, cannot shy away from the fact that the industrial extermination of almost the entire Jewish population of Europe took place at the hands of Germans. This means that we Germans have a particular responsibility for this matter. To do this, we must establish the appropriate structures. We have already made some progress in this regard. 3 years ago, for instance, we created the Joint Federal and State Commission to fight anti-Semitism and protect Jewish life. We founded this body because the federal states are responsible in Germany for around, I would say, 80% of measures to combat anti-Semitism, for example, those related to education, culture, justice, and the police. Discussion within the Commission has proved to be extremely valuable and fruitful, and I'm very happy to have two members of that Commission here, Michael Blume and Ludwig Spähnle, who will speak to us today later. Since this body was founded, actually the work of the federal state anti-Semitism commissioners has been supplemented by commissioners in the general public prosecutors' offices and in some federal states within the police force as well. And it has been said by Ilan Carr and others, and I couldn't agree more, you need to know what we are talking about. You need to find the psychology of your enemy, to discern anti-Semitism. This is so important. Recognizing anti-Semitism in both its old and new forms is an important step in tackling it, and our strategy provides help and guidance in doing this. It takes an approach that is innovative in two ways. First, in its streamlined, compact format. It's only around 40 pages. And second, in its focus, not just on federal level, it recognizes that fighting anti-Semitism is a task for the whole of society. This means that our national strategy is not directed only at state bodies, but also at civil society stakeholders. It can be put into practice at every political level and also throughout broader society. I am very pleased to say that our national strategy provides a widely applicable resource for fighting anti-Semitism. It's a set of guidelines and an instrument for reviewing and adapting programs and measures that are already underway. It can be used to determine that we need to create the optimum conditions for preventing and fighting anti-Semitism and how best we can involve and support the Jewish communities. The strategy, therefore, serves as a toolbox to help us answer the question of whether we are doing enough to combat anti-Semitism, and if not, what is still to be done and how we should do it as the federal government, as federal states, or, for example, as a citizens association, a sports club, or a business, for instance, by adopting the IRA working definition. The strategy provides a matrix of 5 areas of action and 3 so-called cross-cutting aspects. We named it, therefore, the 5x3 model. The objectives of the 5 areas of actions are all interlinked. They apply to society as a whole and can only be reached together. So I will mention the cross-cutting aspects first. Very important, the point of view of the victims whose involvement in our approach to the problem is fundamental. Second, the creation of structures I have already mentioned that can assure the approach can continue in the long term. Our federal commission is one structure as an example. And third, of course, the digital aspect as a fundamental element of our networked society. Particular attention must be paid to these three dimensions in all of the areas of actions. The areas of actions are the following. The first is research, data collection, and overview of the situation. It looks at what type of information is available on anti-Semitism and how we can improve and expand this information and share it with each other. Are we listening enough to Jewish voices in this context? Are we involving the Jewish community in the formats we use to share information, and are our networks adequate? The way information is collected, the way it is passed on to contact people or reporting points, and the way it is incorporated into situation overviews are as relevant for instance, a voluntary fire brigade, for example, as they are for a federal state. The second area of action, education to prevent anti-Semitism, focuses on imparting knowledge. Education should be provided on anti-Semitism in a way that is tailored, of course, to the target group and at different times of life. For example, in schools, during training and further education, and in professional settings. Just as an example, Lufthansa has adopted the working definition of anti-Semitism recently, and now it is being used in Lufthansa crew trainings, etc. They want to do something about it, so I'm very happy about this. And education on anti-Semitism and the history of the Holocaust can also take place in business settings just as well as it can in training sessions for public sector employees. The third area of action is commemoration, a culture of remembrance, and an awareness of history. Active remembrance is based on a critical awareness of history. It also includes the dignified commemoration of the victims of National Socialism, just as Mayor Bakoyannis has mentioned. The fourth area of action, security and punitive action against anti-Semitism, looks at how we should react to anti-Semitic acts and how we can provide freedom and security for all. This section spans topics from legislation to football, ending orders. For instance, when we see a Hitler salute in a football stadium, we should get guidelines for the football clubs how they should react. Should they ban this person for the rest of his life for having done this, or is it possible still to have a conversation to explain why this is absolutely unacceptable? So we have some guidelines about this. And the fifth area of action, Jewish past and present, focuses on empowering Jews and making them more visible. A youth club is just as good a setting for supporting the Jewish community and fostering awareness of and contact with their day-to-day reality as a government organization is. I think the more normal, the more self-evident the existence of Jewish life is in European societies, the less it is endangered to be attacked. And there, our friends in the United States, I really have to say, I envy you a little bit, because Jewish life in the US is considered to be so much more normal, self-evident. People go to synagogues, to concerts, to exhibitions, they congratulate Jewish neighbors for Jewish holidays, etc. We should have that same attitude in Germany too, and I'm really preparing also events in having that, public Sukkot celebrations, or exhibitions, cooking courses, everything that makes life great, and also that Jewish life offers should be made knowledgeable to our societies. So this is a very important pillar on our national societies. Of course, I hope that our strategy will be widely applied, and that we will discuss about our strategies, how to combat it better, because it has been said, but it can't be repeated enough. Really, the fight against anti-Semitism is not only a fight for the Jewish communities, but it is a fight to defend our democracies. Thank you very much for your attention.